Oh boy, oh boy. Today is the day, and now is the time. I'm a little late to it, and by a little late, I mean this literally ended an hour ago. I'm an hour late to this live debate. However, I actually prefer it that way because, as you all know, I can't go 2 seconds without pausing a video and talking for 10 minutes. And when I'm watching something that's live, you guys get mad when I pause and commentate. So now that we're watching it like after the fact, like very briefly after the fact, I can actually pause it and commentate on stuff without you guys having any reason to when I'm a pause Andy. So that's nice. That's a nice little benefit of this. But this is it. The GOP debates. Let's watch. The DNC needs to start.
Tonight, the race for the White House takes flight. Welcome to the first debate of the 2024 presidential
The Democrats
campaign,
really need to start
live
doing
at
shit
Fiserv
like
Forum
this.
in Milwaukee.
8 Republican candidates have qualified.
Have you seen how low energy
here on our debate stage?
the
they are here to lay out their vision.
the Democrat ones are?
As they battle for the GOP nomination. Good evening, everybody. I'm
Every
Martha
time.
And I'm Brett Baer. This is the very same stage on which the Republican choice for president will accept the party's nomination next summer. The 8 contenders are positioned by the order they sit in the polls, with the highest polling candidates in the middle standing center stage. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Next, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy.
Former Vice President Mike Pence.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki
All
Haley.
these people suck.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson.
And North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
Some ground rules for tonight. We'll ask the questions,
I like how
and then candidates get
I
1
don't
minute
know-
to answer. If
I knew 3 of those people. Like that gives you like prospect on like who matters here. I knew 3 of those people. By name. Like that's it. 3 of them. It's not looking good. It's not looking good for any of them. I think Trump might have this one in the bag.
someone is singled out,
He's not
you get
even
30
there.
seconds to
Trump didn't
respond.
even show
and when
up.
the time runs out, we all will hear this. Very pleasant.
So
he
tonight,
knows
these
he's the
candidates have
winner.
a big opportunity to break out of the pack and to explain why they are best prepared to be the Republican choice for president at a time when the likely Democrat nominee, President Joe Biden, is working to convince the country that with Bidenomics, things are looking up.
They call my plan Bidenomics. I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what? It's working.
But is
I
it?
love Joe.
More than
He's
65%
based.
of Americans say the country is headed in the wrong direction. And here's the reality for some voters we talked to here in Wisconsin this week.
What a
We
vague
have noticed a
question.
dramatic increase in prices at the grocery store just across the board.
Gas is high and food is high. A lot of people's out here homeless because they can't buy food.
It's tough when you got mortgage rates at 70% versus 2 to 3.
Oh shit,
It's just
guys,
you
the
can't afford the housing
Republicans
more.
care about
This
homeless people?
inflation is ridiculous. It's killing us out here.
As we sit here tonight,
How is it that literally every single time there's a Democrat president, and like we've looked into this, like it is not because of Democrat policy, generally speaking, that we see increases in inflation, but generally it seems like it takes roughly a political cycle, like a presidential cycle, for the effects to really hit the American people and become apparent. So it always seems like the current president is responsible for the symptoms of the actions of the last president. And so that always makes it look like any economic turmoil we face caused by Republican policymaking is caused by Democrats, and they use it against the Democrats. And if they can keep getting reelected, then they can keep doing those policies. And if people keep swinging back and forth, then the same effect will just keep happening. Unless Gen Z just wipes the... Like, remember, by the way, like, while all this is going, you have to remember, young people that are, like, about to get to be voting age just this year and right before the election next year, really do not like the Republicans. They are staunchly vote blue no matter who. Gen Z is very pro-Democrat, very progressive, very pro-LGBT, very anti-Republican just across the board. So yeah, I don't see the Republicans having much staying power with this election. And I think they know it. I really do think they know it.
The #1 song on the Billboard chart is called Rich Men North of Richmond.
God.
By a singer from
This guy's
Farmville,
astroturfed
Virginia,
as
named
fuck.
Oliver Anthony. His lyrics speak of alienation, of deep frustration with the state of government and of this country. Washington, D.C. is about 100 miles north of Richmond.
These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think, want to know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that.
There was a really good country song parody of this guy's song, and it's like it was like called Blame the Poor. And it's basically like the same. It's basically the lyrics of this guy's song. It's a different melody and everything, though. I think it's actually better, but it's more mask off. So if you pay attention to the lyrics of the song, it's basically like the poor people are the problem, and the Democrats and the government are taking my hard-earned money to give to poor people while they eat their fucking fudge rounds and whatnot. Like, it's really fucked. Didn't this guy recently get canceled for saying diversity is our strength? No. He actually, I think, put out a new song today that has like 3 million views already. Here we go. Worth noting, the cons are trying to cancel him after he said he wanted unity. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he put out a new song today, though. It's still, like, massively viral. Like, you have to understand, he's been big-time astroturfed by the right. You cannot go anywhere on YouTube without seeing that video recommended. It's been paid for as an ad, the original video on both Facebook and YouTube. You know anyone can do that, right? Like, anyone can just pay money to Google or to Facebook to just run ads. You can just do that. Like, they put it through a screening process first, but you can just do that. And that's what Daily Wire does for, like, Abigail Shapiro. They do it for Ben Shapiro. They do it for Michael Knowles. PragerU does this for themselves. I could go down the list. Steven Crowder does this, or did this, before he kind of, like, dematerialized from the internet. Yeah, they basically have bought their way into prominence. Very artificially.
What you do is your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end. Those are rich men, those are rich men.
So, Governor DeSantis, why is this song striking such a nerve in this country right now? What do you think it means?
Jesus.
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline. And it starts with understanding.
Damn, he actually got a good clap there.
So that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong.
They're so obsessed with Hunter Biden.
Congress spends trillions and trillions of dollars. Those rich men north of Richmond have put us in this situation. And finally, we need to lower your gas prices. We're going to open up.
Oh, by the way, for those of you guys that don't know, his talking points leaked a couple days ago. People on Ron DeSantis' team leaked his script for his responses to these questions. For those that don't know, these debates are entirely scripted. They get the questions ahead of time, and they have, like, their entire teams working to give them, like, scripted answers ahead of time. Their job is to sit there, look pretty, and recite their answers in a way that's, like, effective. So, like, this all already leaked. Like, we already know what his answers are. They leaked online. None of this is, like, original thought coming from him. A team wrote this together, put it together, had him read through it, and train up, and it's leaked. We've known about this for days.
All energy production. We will be energy dominant again in this country.
More oil. More oil.
I pledge to you as your president, we will get the job done, and I will not let you down.
Governor DeSantis, thank you. Governor Christie, do you agree with Governor DeSantis just said there? And why would you be better on the economy than him?
Well, look, I do agree predominantly with what Governor DeSantis just laid out. I think that if you asked every one of us up here, that we would agree predominantly with what he just laid out. Here's the difference. The difference is that we're going to have to work and make sure that we sell these ideas. And be able to put ourselves in a position where we get a majority of the vote, not only by winning the Congress and the Senate in 24, but also by having someone who's had the experience.
Who is this guy? I don't know who this guy is.
I was elected as a conservative Republican in a blue state with 61% of the vote, with a Democratic legislature against me the entire time. And we still, through hard, strong decision-making,
their biggest concern is winning.
To our point of view, we cut taxes in New Jersey.
That's Chris Christie. Oh, okay, I know his name, but I've never seen a picture of him.
With bad Democratic ideas, we stood and stopped them. And when there were
that is not what I would have assumed he looked
to make
like.
Progress going forward.
He ran for president in 2016.
And accountability are the things we need to do to fight waste. And I'd say the last thing is.
Do you think this guy looks like memorable? I'm actually genuinely curious. Do you guys think of all the hundreds of like Republican pieces of shit that I've had to talk about on my channel? Do you guys think he's that memorable? I know he is. Like I've heard of him by name, but like visually, does he really look like? Oh, you see him and you're just like, whoa, that's Chris Christie. No. No, he's just. You're like, oh, that's what he looks like. Okay.
This, Brett, we cannot sit by any longer and allow the kind of spending that's going on in Washington, because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their grandchildren. It's robbing our country, and it's wrong.
Well, Governor, let me just follow up very quickly. New Jersey, when you were governor...
They're talking about taxes right now, by the way, because that song, the Richmond, North of Richmond song, is about tax money being spent on poor people for welfare programs, and like the money being taken from the middle class. That song is being called the middle class anthem, has been the term, because for a lot of you guys that don't know, a lot of conservatives are actually middle class. There's a lot of stereotypes about how most Republicans are actually poor and they're like really bad education, and that is true for a lot of conservatives, but many of them are actually fairly well off middle class who vote Republican primarily because they know that for things such as Medicare for all or even a public option to exist, there would have to be pretty significant hikes to taxes for middle-class families and, well, not even middle-class families. Families actually don't get taxed as much. It would be middle-class single guys, for the most part, would be getting taxed the most. Yeah, this is just, like, tax fear-mongering, because, like the entire song is, like, an anthem for like relatively well-off middle-class people who want to pretend like poor people are the cause of all their problems, because rich, like, they see themselves as being like just a step away from being rich, and they don't want to be against that system. You know, when they think they're just, you know, they're almost there, right? I don't know if you guys have seen people like this, but in Florida, it's pretty common. That type of conservative.
Governor had the second lowest credit rating in the nation after Illinois, and it was downgraded 11 times.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you inherit a blue state that has done that. But when you look at what we did on debt, Brett, in that state, we cut debt in that state, debt that had been left to us by 3 Democratic gubernatorial predecessors of mine who ran up that debt tremendously.
By the way, when conservatives talk about blank country or blank state being in debt, it means nothing. Like, legitimately. It means nothing. It doesn't mean the type of debt that you think it means. It's just, debt is a scary word. When people go into debt, it's a bad thing. But the way it functions economically is not the same. This is just them using fear-mongering language. There is no way, realistically, for there not to be any national debt. That's just not a thing. Well, yeah, in the U.S., to be fair, like, we're talking about, this is the case with America, and we're talking about Republicans, we're talking about American conservatives in America. The U.S. national debt is not, like, it's not like owing your friend money, you know? It's not like America's in trouble if we don't pay someone back. It's more of it's more representative of a disparity in investment, from my understanding. It's more complicated than that, but my general cursory knowledge is that the majority of that debt comes from American. Ooh, hold on. The fact that there are more. America is putting more money into China in many different ways. This includes investing than China is putting into us. However, China is still putting a lot of fucking investment into us. We are still like one of their, if not their number one trading partner. So, I don't know. We're not getting into the stun lock.
And what you also saw us do was to cut the unemployment rate in half. It was over 10% when I became governor in 2010. What we also did was cut pension payments to public employees to make sure that taxpayers were not being soaked by a public employee union system that was killing the taxpayer.
Thank you, Governor.
Tim Scott, Senator Scott, excuse me. The song also goes after welfare programs. As a senator, now President Biden argued for freezing federal spending, this was back in the 80s, and dealing with sacred cows. He does not talk about that anymore. You have been a senator, though, for 10 years. So what have you done to rein in the increasing size of government?
Well, thank you for the question.
Rein in the size of government. So what she's asking right now is, what have you done to help destroy welfare programs meant to help poor people, to instead help the middle class, the upper middle class, which majorly vote Republican. God, these people are demons. They really are demons. Like, hold on, can I get like a soundboard that plays "Meanwhile at the Sanctum of Evil" every time like we resume this shit, because this is just the Sanctum of Evil. That's what we're watching right now.
Opportunity to vote against spending package after spending package after spending package. What we also need to understand is that Joe Biden's Bidenomics has led to the loss of $10,000 of spending power for the average family. When you see 16% inflation, your gas is up 40%, your food is up 20%, your electricity is up 20%. We can stop that by turning the spigot off in Washington, sending the money back to the states, and allowing the decisions to be made at their own houses. I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. We cut taxes for a single mom like the one that raised me by 70%, for dual households by 60%, returning to the average family $4,000. If you don't send it to Washington, we can't spend it. That's good news for the American people.
Okay, but just to...
The unfortunate thing is, though, all of that money just, it doesn't go to anything generally that ends up helping the vast majority of those that get it. So $4,000 over the course of a year sounds like a lot, right? Like that's a good amount of money to save. But if that $4,000 could instead go to welfare programs that would guarantee that, like, if you got into a life-ruining accident or got a life-ruining disease or something and you required medical treatment, or your house got burned down, or God forbid any number of unpredictable disasters happened, if you could just, like, spend $4,000 a year in taxes and guarantee those won't be a problem, and that won't be a problem for anybody else either, then would you not be fine with paying that much in taxes? I don't know. The only truly good thing about Chris Christie is that he's so loudly anti-Trump. Yeah. Oh my God, these things. Oh my God, they're the worst. They're the worst. They do way too much damage, too. Like, they get knocked back 100 feet, so you gotta chase them down.
Follow up, you did, during the Trump administration, you approved $4.4 trillion, $4.1 trillion, $1.7 trillion over the course of that administration. That's a lot of money.
There's no doubt that during the Trump administration, when we were dealing with the COVID virus, we spent more money. But here's what happened at the end of our time in the majority. We had low unemployment, record low unemployment.
The inflation is mostly caused by COVID, by the way.
70-year low
COVID
for women.
fucked up the economy bad.
African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians had an all-time low, but our inflation was at 2%. Under Joe Biden, we've seen the exact opposite. We've seen inflation explode, which led to 12 Federal Reserve increases that's devastating home buyers today.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you're listening to these answers.
If I may, that was our administration, so I don't know if I get a chance to respond.
He didn't mention you specifically, but we'll be with you in a second, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Ramaswamy, listening to all of this, why should voters choose you over more experienced politicians on this stage? You're basically, a blank slate for people. You're 38 years old. You've said that you only voted in 2 presidential elections before this moment, this political race.
So first, let me just address a question.
Only
that is
voted in
everybody's
2
mind at home
presidential
tonight.
elections?
Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents
God,
came to this
this
country
guy.
with no money 40 years ago.
No
I
wonder
have
this
gone on to
guy's
found
popular with Republicans.
multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, a poor
He's
vote,
a tech
raising
bro.
our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that that American dream will not exist for our 2 sons and their generation unless we do something about it. And I do think Brett is going to take an outsider, because for a long time we have professional politicians in the Republican Party.
Yeah,
who
he's
have been
doing
running
the Ben
from something.
Shapiro impression.
Now is our moment to start running to something, to our vision of
He's a
what it means
Shapiro.
to be an American today.
He's
If
the
you have broken
Shapiro
it, you don't
archetype
throw
of
the keys to the people who
conservative.
broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem. That's why I'm in this race, and we're just getting warmed up.
All right, to you, Governor Haley. So why are you better positioned to turn around this economy that we've heard all of these voters talking about tonight than Mr. Ramaswamy, who is a successful entrepreneur nationally right now? He's beating you in the polls.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is
Oh my
telling
God,
the
a
American
woman?
people the truth. The truth is
forgot.
that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us too. When they passed
True.
that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to.
It's so evil. It's so evil, dude. God, they're demonic. She's describing how evil it is, how many people were given financial support, by the way. That's what she's talking about, how evil that is and how awful it is. How bad that was.
Fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked
wrong.
for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats
But
asked
the
for
debt's not-
$2.8 billion. So you tell
the
me who are
debt's
the big
not-
spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President Pence, you were mentioned there. 54% of voters say the cost of groceries is a, quote, major problem for them.
Right.
You blamed the Biden administration spending for that increase. But as vice president, your administration spent more than any prior, $7.8 trillion added to the national debt, $3.5 trillion of that before COVID. So does that mean that you're part of the spending problem?
Well, first off, thanks for the question. Thanks for letting me respond to a reference to our administration's record. I'm incredibly proud of the record of the Trump-Pence administration. I mean, in 4 short years, we rebuilt our military. We revived our economy. We unleashed American energy. And we appointed 3 conservatives to the Supreme Court that gave the American people a new beginning for the right to life. Now,
That's taking away
Martha,
Roe
you
v.
asked
Wade,
earlier, who's
the right to
the most
abortion.
best prepared for
They
this
call it the
job?
right to life.
And I must tell you with all due respect,
Because they have the
to all
dog
my friends
whistle,
on the stage,
taking away people's
and even the
rights
one
to make
that's
it
probably
sound better.
looking on. I think unquestionably I am the best prepared, the most tested, the most qualified and proven conservative in this race. I was a leader in the Congress of the United States. I led Indiana where we balanced budgets and had a AAA bond rating when I was governor. And as Vice President of the United States, we spent funding to backfill on the military cuts of the Obama administration, and then we were there in the worst pandemic in 100 years. All that being said, I was the first person in this race.
Those horrible
to say that
cuts
we've got
on
to deal with the
military
long-term
spending.
National debt
Gotta fix
issues.
those cuts
You've got
on
people
military
this stage that
spending.
won't even talk about issues like Social Security and Medicare.
We gotta
Vivek,
spend
you
more
recently
money on
said,
the
"A president can't do
military.
everything." Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America. I will put our nation back on the path to growth and prosperity and restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress and as governor
Mr. Vice President.
and when I was vice president.
But I mean,
Hold on.
respond
Yeah,
to that, 'cause I was-
you were named earlier. I'm going
What?
to go to Vivek first.
We'll get to both of
Yeah, this isn't that complicated.
They're like
guys. Unlock
stuttering
American
over each
energy.
other.
Drill, frack,
Okay, they're
burn
just
coal,
spawning in
embrace nuclear.
hordes. This isn't
Put people
possible.
back to work by no longer paying them more to stay at home. Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar, and go to war. The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations acting like a wet blanket on the economy. So I'm not sure I exactly understood
Those
Mike Pence's
toxic
comment, but I'll let you all parse
regulations,
that out. For me, it's
no.
pretty simple. That's something a U.S. president can do.
Oh,
with focus and
Republicans
not
are
deliver
so
on.
fucking monstrous, dude.
If I can.
They're so
I'll go
monstrous.
slower this time.
You know, I sometimes struggle with the reading
Look, I was a House conservative leader before it was cool. I actually pushed a Deficit Reduction Act. That was the last time we actually reduced the national debt in the United States, when I was the leader of House conservatives. I balanced budgets and cut taxes when I was governor. I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring people.
It's 30 seconds when you have a rebuttal, okay? And you are up, Governor DeSantis.
So here's the thing.
God, they're
Why are
getting
we in
mad
this
at each
mess?
other.
Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake. It should have never happened. And in Florida, we led the country out of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell
God,
you
these
this,
people
as your
are evil.
president, I will never let the deep state bureaucrats lock you down. You don't take somebody
Deep
like Fauci
state
and coddle him.
bureaucrats.
You bring
Oh
Fauci.
no. So for those that don't know, COVID's never going away. Because of these people, they've solidified that COVID will be a thing forever now. And the unfortunate thing is, the research continuously shows long COVID is a lifetime thing. I felt a lot better from my shit recently, like my long COVID shit I had to deal with, but like, it's very likely that I'll have another spike in like feeling like garbage down the road, and that'll be like the rest of my life thing. Like most of the evidence shows that's the case. The same goes for SARS, the SARS epidemic, and because of the way the Republicans handled COVID, there's no stopping it now. It's just here to stay now. It's going to be as normal as the flu and the cold now. We completely missed the opportunity because of the Republicans to make COVID extinct like we did the Spanish flu. It is now impossible. What they're talking about right now is basically, for lack of a better term, gloating about how they have guaranteed COVID will continue to kill many, many millions more people and basically destroy the lives of many more in perpetuity because of their actions, and that they will ensure the next time another pandemic like this happens, they will go about doing the exact same thing. Like, this is them indicating the next time a pandemic happens like this, no matter how bad it is, they're going to do this again. They will not stand for any form of lockdown or, like, quarantining procedures for anything. They will do this again. Which basically means they are promising to doom humanity to, like, a viral epidemic anytime one comes along. They are announcing they will engage in terrorism, but, like literal, like, basically terrorism, I would say that is what that is, because they refuse to be put under lockdown as quarantine. Cool. Very good.
You sit him down and you say, Anthony, you are fired.
Fire Fauci! Fire Fauci!
We're going to bring in...
I just want to respond to Mike for 1
No
second.
vaccines! Vaccines bad! Fire Fauci!
Slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now. The reality and the fact of the matter is...
Was that one of yours?
Not really, Mike, actually. We're just going to have some fun tonight. And the reality is, you have a bunch of people, professional politicians, super PAC puppets, following slogans handed over to them by their 400-page super PACs last week. The real choice we face in this primary is this. Do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about?
He's talking about DeSantis' things leaking.
I stand on the side of the American revolution.
We're going to take control back here.
We need everyone to have a moment on the economy.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Can I address the
There are
COVID
two
issue
people
that
who
the
have
governor
not.
brought
We're
up?
going to get back to that. We are. There are two people who we have not heard from yet. So let's hear from Governor Burgum and then from Governor Hutchinson on the economy, sir.
Well, great. Thank you, Martha. And of course, I'm from a town of 300 people. It's a big deal to make it on this stage with all these folks. But when they were all wishing me well, and I think I took it a little too literally when they said, go to Milwaukee and break a leg. So, but I do want to say, on this, we're missing
Conservative
something. We can't
humor.
just talk about the Biden economy because the economy, energy, and national security are all tied together.
Was that
of course,
canned
we're paying too much
laughter?
for our energy in our state, in our country right now. But part of the reason why is because of the Biden policies on
who
energy.
is this
We've got
guy?
a plan right now. The $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is something that is just subsidizing China. If we're going to stop buying oil from the Middle East and start buying batteries from China, we're just trading OPEC for Sinopec. And then belatedly, the Biden administration says, no, we're going to put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, we put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, then it's 20% off. Who's buying it? China. So if you buy a battery in this country, you buy a solar panel, it's being produced in a plant in China powered by coal, or it's being powered by oil and gas at 20% off. And every farmer in this country would like to buy
the
diesel at
governor of North
20%
Dakota?
off, just like they're buying in China.
Governor Hutchinson, quickly.
One of those non-states.
Thank you, Grant. Delighted to be here tonight. And let me just tell you that I'm a pro-life governor from a conservative
I can
state
tell.
that have a conservative
Yeah,
record
I can
in which
tell.
I lowered taxes in Arkansas as governor.
Yeah,
I
you're
created
from
a $2
Arkansas,
billion
right?
surplus
I
that
can
passed
tell.
over to my successor, and I made sure that we shrunk the size of government. We have 14% fewer state employees in Arkansas after I left government than when I took over as governor 8 years ago. I tell that because that's what we need in Washington, D.C. We need somebody who can actually constrain the growth of the federal government.
This guy almost sounds like Dale Gribble if he was never like a chain smoker. Rest in peace, by the way. Yeah, he kind of does. Like, when I got into the government, I can't. Arkansas.
That can actually reduce the size, and I've pledged to reduce by 10% our federal non-defense workforce. That's a specific pledge to make that attacks the administrative state. And let me applaud some of the business partners that are here that have had success in business. But let me tell you, I've been a federal prosecutor. I've served our country in terms of being head of the DEA, in Homeland Security, in times of crisis. And while I think that's experience that is important for the future of our country, to be the president of the United States that can lead with positive solutions and be held accountable.
Thank you. We have a lot of topics to get to, and I promise we're going to get to everyone if we play within the rules.
A cop president, fantastic.
More than 1,000 people are still
that sounds like a great plan.
After the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century, Hawaii's governor and White House officials said that climate change.
Are you ready to hear some climate change denial? All right, here comes the climate change denial. Let's go.
Amplified the cost of human error.
And a tropical storm hit California for the first time in 84 years. The ocean hit 101 degrees off the coast of Florida. And in the last month, the heat wave in the Southwest broke records nearly 50 years old.
So Alexander Diaz from Young America's Foundation has a question for you all.
Polls consistently show that young people's #1 issue is climate change. How will you, as both President of the United States and leader of the Republican Party, calm their fears that the Republican Party doesn't care about climate change?
So we want to start on this with a show of
I like how it's calm their fears and not what will you do about climate change. It's how will you get them to shut the fuck up. That's great.
Do you believe in human behavior is causing climate change? Raise your hand if you do.
Well, look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start. Alexander,
so do you want to raise your hand?
Oh, God.
I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all, one of the reasons our country's decline is because of the way the corporate media treats Republicans versus Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering. He was asked about it. He said no comment. Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. You've got to be helping people who are doing this. And here's the deal.
So is that a yes or is that a yes? Is that a hand raise?
You do not.
I think it was a hand raise for him, and my hands are in my pockets.
No, I didn't raise a hand.
Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for? Hold on.
Yeah, he's very stupid, obviously. He doesn't believe climate change is real, but he's popular with the right. Makes sense why he'd be popular.
Who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
Okay, that was good. All right, I remember Chris Christie now. That was fucking good. That was.
Odd last name doing up here was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing stage.
Oh wait! Oh my God! He got racist too. Oh my God! Holy shit! Oh my God! We were watching that bit. He went hard there. Oh my God! That was Giga Chad. Oh my God! I'm surprised he didn't just outright call him brown. Instant replay. Yeah, let's get the instant replay.
Said that climate change amplified the cost of human error.
Alexander, so do you want to raise your hand or not? I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all, one of the reasons our country's decline is because of the way the corporate media treats Republicans versus Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering. He was asked about it. He said no comment. Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. You've got to be helping people who are doing this. And here's the deal.
For the record, as a Floridian, he is not known for
this. It was a
this.
hand raise for him, and my hands are in my pockets.
No, I didn't raise a hand.
Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy.
Anti-carbon
and so the reality
agenda.
Is, more people are dying of bad.
So he keeps saying that everyone else is bought out, and they are, but it's very obvious, especially based on his talking points, that he is 100% bought out by coal and/or oil, just fossil fuel companies across the board. It's very clear where the money is coming from for him. Yoink.
Climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Who is dying of climate change policy?
Wait, hold on.
I've had enough.
Cause of
I've had
death,
enough
climate
already
change
tonight
policy.
of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last
That
person in
roast
one of
went
these
hard.
debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Oh, God.
Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
Same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
The same type of amateur.
Hold on. Governor Haley, would you like to respond? Are you
So,
bought and
Brett,
paid
what I
for?
would like to say is the fact that I think this is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a
Oh,
man.
my
If you want
God.
something done, ask a woman.
Oh, my God. That was the worst sentence I've heard today. Thank you. That's the worst thing I've heard today.
Taken care of.
Thank
but
you.
There's a right way to do it. And the right way to do it is, first of all, yes,
That
is
takes the
climate change
cake.
real? Yes, it is. But if you want to go and really change the environment, then we need to start telling China and India that they have to lower their emissions. That's where our problem
Wait,
is.
China
And these
already
great
is, and I'm pretty
subsidies
sure
that Biden
India
has
is
put in,
too.
all he's done is help China because he doesn't understand all these electric vehicles that he's done. What that does.
That he's
Half of
done.
the batteries for electric vehicles are made in China. And so that's not helping the environment. You're putting money in China's pocket, and Biden did that. So first of all, I think we need to acknowledge the truth, which is these subsidies are not working. We also need to take on the international world and say, okay, India and China, you've got to stop polluting, and that's when we'll start to deal with
Senator Scott, are you bought and paid for?
Absolutely.
Are you bought and paid for?
I'm sorry?
Are you bought and paid
Absolutely not. I mean, here's what the American people deserve is a debate about the issues that affect their lives. Going back and forth being childish is not helpful to the American people to decide on the next leader of our country. Number one, wait a second. And number two, as a kid who grew up in a single-parent household mired in poverty, I wondered, was the American dream real for kids who were devastated by poverty, devastated by the challenges of life? I came to the conclusion that America can do for anyone what she's done for me if we focus on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting America. If we want the environment to be better, and we all do, the best thing to do is to bring our jobs home from China. If we create 10 million new jobs in my Made in America plan, we will have a better economy and a better environment. Let me tell you why I say that, Brett. America,
Do it quickly.
America has cut. I'm a Southern boy, I talk slow. So America, that was quick. America has cut our carbon footprint in half in the last 25 years. The places where they are continuing to increase, Africa, 950 million people. India, over 1 billion. China, over 1 billion. Why would we put ourselves at a disadvantage? Devastating our own economy. Let's bring our jobs home.
We have a lot of different topics to get to.
Yeah, we do. We thank you all. Thank you, Senator Scott.
So, in other words, they have no plans to do anything about climate change. You will die if you let them stay in power.
The first Republican debate continues moments away.
There we
Even
go.
in red states, there are more swing state referendums that are coming up as we head into the elections as well on this. So, Governor Haley, what do you say to your party and to your state, which today confirmed a 6-week abortion law as well, especially the impact on women
That
and suburban
effectively
voters
bans
across this
abortion,
country?
by the way.
Thank you, Martha. I am
The 6-week
unapologetically
bans?
pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children, so I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, we need to stop demonizing this issue. This is talking about the fact that unelected justices didn't need to decide something this personal because it's personal for every woman and man. Now it's been put in the hands of the people. That's great. When it comes to a federal ban, let's be honest with the American people and say it will take 60 Senate votes. It will take a majority of the House. So in order to do that, let's find consensus. Can't we all agree that we should ban late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoption?
There's no such thing as a late-term abortion. That's not real. There are no late-term abortions. That's not a thing. It's a made-up term, guys. The term late-term abortion, that's not a thing. That's called induced birth. If it's a baby, like if it's capable of coming out of the uterus and functioning on its own pre-birth, then you could consider it a baby, and that would just be a early induced pregnancy, and that's what would or induced birth, right? Not induced pregnancy, induced birth, and yeah, like they don't do late term abortions, like. Yeah, and if there are, then it's almost always an emergency, yeah. And even when they do the the induced birth, it's because of emergencies too. It's because it's like, oh, the baby's heart has stopped beating. We have to get it out now and do like CPR or something. Like that kind of scenario is when they do the induced birth, which is like it's just an insane made up thing. Like, because everybody agrees that like doing an abortion to like an 8.5-month-old fetus is monstrous, right? Like sticking a buzzsaw up there and like cutting it into pieces and then like slurping it out with a vacuum or something. Like, everyone agrees that would be fucking horrific. So that's why they talk about it. Like, that's a super common thing. Like, these late-term abortions, you know, it's not a thing.
That doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? Can't we all agree that contraception should be available?
They don't.
And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman...
Wait, doctors who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? That's a specialty. What doctor would specialize in that field of medicine and have a moral opposition to it? And want to know, you're arguing the doctors should not have to do their job? None of it makes sense. I should stop trying to, like, find reason in anything they say. It's not meant to have any reason in it.
In jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion. Let's treat this like a respectful issue that it is and humanize the situation and stop demonizing the situation.
Brett, Governor, you're not mentioned, Vice President Pence. Governor DeSantis, you signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. One of your biggest financial backers said that you need to, quote, shift to get moderates or you will lose. What do you say to him and others who say politically that
God,
is a
I love
tough
how
thing
much
to
Republicans are just tying themselves
we
to
sold
anti-abortion.
the biggest election landslide victory
They're
in the
killing
history of the
themselves
Republican Party in the
politically
state of
with
Florida in
Gen Z.
2022. That's what I did. We can win. But second of all, look, you got to do what you think is right. I believe in a culture of life. I was proud to sign the heartbeat bill. I remember one of the most impactful moments of my life was when I heard the heartbeat of my oldest daughter in my wife's womb and then saw the sonograms of all 3 of my kids. What the Democrats are trying to do on this issue is wrong, to allow abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. I know a lady in Florida named Penny.
Oh my God. He literally wants to ban induced birth. Abortion up to the point of birth. That's induced birth. That's literally emergency induced birth is what he wants to ban. That's what he's describing. Oh my God. Nope. No Fed posting.
She survived multiple abortion attempts. She was left discarded in a pan.
Survived
Fortunately,
multiple
her grandmother
abortion
saved her and brought her to a
attempts.
different hospital.
Oh my God. Did he just say he has a friend who survived multiple abortion attempts? His grandmother found him in a pan and brought him to the hospital. The abortion attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed. That is insane. We need that movie. We need a movie about that. About, like, the girl who, like, induced a miscarriage at, like, 8.5 weeks and gives birth to this, like, half stillborn, barely alive, like, baby fetus into, like, a frying pan and leaves it under the bed for a day. The grandma finds it and is disgusted by it, so takes it to, like, a foster home or like to like an orphanage, and then it grows up and realizes it has superpowers and it ends up being a superhero, and this is the new Marvel character backstory. Hire me, Disney.
Better than what the Democrats are selling. We are not going to allow abortion all the way up till birth, and we will hold them accountable for their extremism.
But just to be clear, Governor, would you sign a 6-week ban federally?
I'm going to stand on the side of life. Look, I understand Wisconsin is going to
Answer
do
the
different
question.
than Texas. I
The
understand
answer is
Iowa
yes.
and New Hampshire are going to do different. But I will support the cause of life as governor and as president.
Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head. Hold on, Senator. Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
Well, look, I'm not new to this cause. After I gave my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I opened up the book and I read,
Jesus.
Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And see, I set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life. And I knew from that moment on, the cause of life had to be my cause. And I've been a champion for life in the Congress, a champion for life as governor and as vice president. And to be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people, they didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue, it's a moral issue. And I promise you, as President of the United States the American people will have a champion for life in the Oval Office. Can't we have a minimum standard in every state in the nation that says when a baby is capable of feeling pain, an abortion cannot be allowed? A 15-week ban is an idea whose time has come. It's supported by 70% of the American people, but it's going to take unapologetic leadership that stands on principle and expresses compassion for women in crisis pregnancies. I'll do that as President of the United States.
He called my name, so I have to respond to that. 30 seconds. So first of all, I will say it is in the hands of the people, and
They are
that's where it should
fucking
be. But when
themselves
we're
on the
talking about a
abortion
federal
issue.
ban, be
They
honest
can't
with
let
the
it
American
go.
people. We haven't had 45 pro-life senators in over 100 years, so no Republican president can ban abortions any more than a Democrat president could ban all those state laws. Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation to ban abortion after a baby is capable of experiencing pain. It's just going to take leadership.
Hold on.
70% of the Senate does not. You have to be honest with the American people.
What is the definition of feeling pain in that?
But the Supreme
Because at 15 weeks, there's no brain yet. There's just like a spinal cord, right? Like the beginning of a spinal cord and like some semblance of the proto-nervous system. So feeling pain would just be like the ability to like feel a stimuli of some kind and like nerve endings going off of some kind that indicate there's input. There's no like brain there processing that input though. It's not an experience being had. It's just like there are nerves that are firing off in response to stimuli. That's all nerves are. But you have to remember, these people literally believe magic is real. So they believe like the soul has activated at that point once the heartbeat is there, some shit like that.
Court did overturn Roe v. Wade. And the result of that decision was that it went back to the states. So that's where it is right now. So as I understand it, you are not in favor of a federal ban. What do you say about the states, there's about 5 of them, including New Jersey, I think a few others, that allow abortion up until the time of birth, though? If you were president, would you be able to abide that?
Well, first of all, I'm a pro-life governor of a very pro-life state. And this issue is, of course, very important. But I am on the record, and I stand behind, that we should not have a federal abortion ban. We should not. And the reason why we shouldn't is very simple. It's the 10th Amendment in the Constitution. In the Constitution, which the states created the federal government, not the other way around, it says that there were certain duties allowed to the federal government delegated to them by the states.
Yeah, this
The
guy's a
rest are
far
left
less
to the
radical
states,
conservative.
more importantly, or to the
He's
people.
trying to appeal
We
to like
need
the
get back to
disaffected
freedom
by
and liberty
Trump
to the
crowd.
people in this country. And we can't have Republicans
Fair
who
amount of
fought for
claps,
50
too.
years for this great cause to return it back to the states, and then the next day they turn around and go, no, the feds should do that, because the feds are stepping into people's lives, they're stepping into people's businesses over and over. If we say that the feds should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution, and this is returned to the states. This is where it should
But
be.
Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. Time out. You signed a 6-week ban. Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. So you're saying federally, it's all going to go to the states.
Yes, and what is going to work in New York will never work in North Dakota, and vice versa. That's
Governor
why 50
Asa
states.
Hutchinson,
That's why
right
50 states.
This is too important of an issue that I have to address. First of all, the
Address.
Supreme
Oh,
Court
this
gave
guy's
back to
this
the
guy's
elected
accent is
representatives,
just
whether
over
it's
the
the
top.
states or whether it's the United States
I
Congress.
just
So
can't
there is
handle
authority,
it.
and that's why President Biden is pushing for a Democrat proposal, which is in essence abortion.
I
on
cannot
demand
imagine
through the
this
term.
man
So
being
they
the
have their
president
extreme
of the
position
United
at a
States.
national level. It's most likely going to be addressed in the states, but it's certainly fine for it to
Arkansas.
be addressed at the national level as well. Arkansas has the record of being the most pro-life state in the nation. I signed 30 pro-life pieces of legislation while I was governor. And every state can determine a different outcome here. And it is the most important issue for women and for the unborn child and for our country that we get this right. It's going to be a continued debate. Let's talk about it in terms of compassion, in terms of protecting the life, and also understanding how we have to enhance adoption services, how we have to enhance maternal care. Those things we've done in Arkansas and are important for our nation's future.
There are a lot of issues that are very important. Senator, I'll let you weigh in.
We cannot let states like California, New York, and Illinois have abortions on demand up until the day of birth. That is immoral. It is unethical.
Like, once again, by the way, like a abortion that happens once the fetus is capable of living on its own without being inside the uterus is a induced birth where they do everything possible to keep the baby alive. And it's usually done as an emergency measure to save both the mom and the baby. Like, it's like they're literally just lying. Yeah, they're just evil. They're just evil. They're saying whatever to to have justification to take your rights away. They're evil, through and through. Pure evil, demonic. They're monsters. Bring salt with you if you ever have to engage with them.
I think we're all pro-life, but what I would love is for someone to ask Biden and Kamala Harris, are they for 38 weeks? Are they for 39 weeks? Are they for 40 weeks? Because that's what the media needs to be asking.
All right, another issue is America and the crime crisis, the homelessness crisis. American cities are in decline. People are moving out as homelessness, drugs, crime move in. There are problems accelerated. They did accelerate during the pandemic and are still rising, actually.
Murders in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, all up 30% between 2019 and 2022. Homelessness is up 11%, the largest jump in recorded history. Vice President Pence, a lot of this began in the COVID era. How much of what we're seeing?
All right, how are they going to demonize homeless people?
Is a result of those COVID
or how are they going to
lockdowns,
demonize Democrats with homeless people?
Well, I think what's in part to blame is the Democrats have been talking about defunding for the last 5 years. And we ought to be funding law enforcement, particularly in our major cities, at unprecedented levels.
God,
it's
I really
extraordinary
called
to think about the violence that's claiming innocent lives literally every week in every major city in this country. And yet Democrats and liberal prosecutors in major metropolitan areas continue to work out their fanciful agendas, to do bail reform and go easy. What we need is strong commitment to law enforcement. We need leadership in Washington, D.C. that'll marshal the resources of the states, marshal the resources of the American people. But let me also say it's about opportunity. I mean, a lot of people don't know that those Trump-Pence tax cuts that we got signed into law go away at the end of 2025 if we don't have a Republican president and a Republican House and a Republican Senate. When I'm president of the United States, we're actually going to cut taxes further. We're going to extend those tax cuts, and we're going to close the Federal Department of Education, block grant all that funding back to the states with a growing economy and educational choice and law enforcement.
God, this is like a Hitler speech.
Christie, another issue. This weekend here in Milwaukee,
We're
reports
going
say
to
there were 30
destroy the
shootings,
Department of
and
Education.
a number of them including kids. Add that to the big increase in
They
school
always say
shootings
when,
around the
yeah.
country. Democrats blame this crisis on easy access to guns. They also blame Republicans for blocking gun control legislation. What would President Christie do?
You know, I'm proud of the fact, Brett, that I'm the only person along with Governor Hutchinson up on this stage who's actually running the United States Attorney's Office. I ran the 5th largest office in America in a state where
they have the
there's
market on
significant
being
urban crime.
pro-gun.
And the problem
They
is not
have
going
the
to be
pro-gun
solved
market.
by more money. The problem is that these prosecutors in these localities in the states are refusing to do their job and to arrest violent criminals. So what President Christie would do is appoint an attorney general who would instruct each of the 93 U.S. attorneys that they are to take over the prosecution of violent crime in every one of those cities that are failing to do so. We have plenty of room in the federal prisons to lock up these violent criminals and clean up what's going on all across this country in these individual cities. Secondly, what we need to make sure that each and every one of these criminals understand is that the laws apply to everybody. And when Hunter Biden fills out a fake application, a false application for a gun permit, and then is facing a 10-year mandatory minimum, which was mandated by legislation sponsored by his father, and then you have a Justice Department that walks away from those
Wait, why would he
charges,
fill out a
we're telling
false
people that the law
gun
doesn't apply to everybody.
permit?
In a Christie administration,
What?
he would go to jail for 10 years.
What about a President Ramaswamy? What does a President Ramaswamy do about guns?
So the
A
reality
false
is we have a
gun
crime wave in this
permit?
country, and we know how to fix it. The
If
question
you
is,
wanted
do
to
we
get
actually have the
illegally
spine to do it? More cops in the
If you wanted to illegally get a gun, why wouldn't he just illegally get a gun? Why would he get a false permit? Are they like, did he like fill out, like make a mistake filling out the form for like the ATF form you have to fill out when you buy a gun, and like they had to like give it back to him to refill out because he put in some piece of info wrong on accident, and the right's like saying he did it illegally? I think it was because he was addicted to illegal drugs and shit. Oh yeah, because you're not allowed to. Yeah, like if you smoke weed or whatever, you're not allowed to have guns or whatever. Yeah. At least if you have like a medical card. I promise you, that is definitely splitting hairs by most gun enthusiasts' standard.
Streets who are on the streets able to do their jobs without looking over their shoulder for getting sued. And we also have a mental health epidemic in this country. Just over the same period that we have closed mental health institutions, we have seen a spike in violent crime. Do we have the spine to bring them back? I think we should. As president, I will. But it's not just drugging up people in those psychiatric institutions with Zoloft and Seroquel. It's a deeper issue. I think faith-based approaches can play a role here, too. We're in the middle of a national identity crisis. And I say this as a member of my generation. The problem in our country right now, the reason we have that mental health epidemic, is that people are so hungry for purpose and meaning at a time when family, faith, patriotism, hard work have all disappeared. What we really need is a tonal reset from the top, saying that this is what it means to be an American. Yes, we will stand for the rule of law. Yes, we will close the southern border where criminals are coming in every day. And yes, we will back law enforcement because we remember who we really are. And that's also how we address that mental health epidemic in the next generation that is directly leading to violent crime across this country.
Illegal immigration is making people mentally ill.
We're not looking for a new national identity. The American people are the most faith-filled, freedom-loving, idealistic, hardworking people the world has ever known. We just need government as good as our people.
Well, Mike, I think the difference is you might have some others that like you may have on the stage it's Morning in America speech. It is not Morning in America. We live in a dark moment, and we have to confront the fact that we're in an internal, sort of cold cultural civil war.
You are
and we have to
equating the
recognize
American
that
people with the failed
win.
government in Washington, D.C. We just need government as good as our people again.
So let me just finish addressing that slogan because I don't know what that slogan means. We need to shut down the administrative state. That's actually how we translate.
Crime has been on the rise in Florida, Governor DeSantis. How do you stop crime?
Well, actually, crime's at a 50-year low in Florida. We're happy with that. Well, the statewide, it's a 50-year low. And so here's the thing. These hollowed-out cities, this is a symptom
Crime's been
of
dropping
America's
consistently
decline. And one of the
everywhere.
biggest reasons is because you have George Soros funding these radical left-wing district attorneys. They get into office.
Okay, so he's going full
Nazi.
Nazi. Okay.
They disagree with the inmates start
That's
running
consistent.
the asylum. There's one guy in this entire country
He's just
that's
doing
ever
full
done
Nazi.
anything about
Cool.
that. Me. When
Good
we had
news.
2 of these district attorneys in Florida elected with Soros funding who said they wouldn't do their job, I removed them from their posts. They are gone. And as president, we are going to go after all of these people because they are hurting the quality of life and they are victimizing innocent people in every corner of this country, and it will stop when I get into office.
Okay, one more here before the break, Governor Bergen.
Are we JQing now? Yeah, he's
You
JQing.
asked your question about the problems we're having in big cities. Nobody ever asked the question of what about the crime wave in small towns? Because in a small town,
Like, for those who don't know, American Nazis do consider Florida to be their state at this point. Like, when you see neo-Nazis online talking about Florida, they consider it to be their fortress state. Like, that's their place. Like, that is the place where they have won, and they've, like, achieved what they want. Or they're on the way to it, effectively, you know? So, like, they... like you see Nazis on the internet, and they love LARPing about, like, being Floridian, even though they're not. Like, they'll be from, like, fucking Wisconsin or some shit like that. But their, like, profile picture is, like, a Groyper wearing, like, the Groyper Pepe wearing, like, a Hawaiian shirt and sunglasses. And it's, like, supposed to be in Miami or some shit. You guys have seen it, right? Like, the white boy summer, like, Floridian white nationalist Zoomer Nazi kids. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's a big new trend.
neighbors help neighbors. People understand each other. If a farmer gets sick, everybody comes together and helps him get the crop off. There's accountability. There's transparency. One thing that I think this country could use is somebody in the White House that understands small town values, because that's our road back to get this country on track again.
Governor Hutchinson?
Was former head of the DEA. I understand the drug crisis in
I
America.
love this guy.
And right now, whenever
I hate
you
him,
look at
but
the
I love
challenges in
how
inner city,
stereotypically
there's
Southern
three simple
his
words that would
accent
be helpful.
is.
One, enforce the law when it comes to crime. Secondly, let's deal with the challenge of fentanyl. And it's both about stopping the fentanyl coming from Mexico, but it's also about education of our young people, making sure that we have the tools that are needed for addiction counseling. That's what we expanded in Arkansas as well. Whenever you look at the underlying challenge of America, though, no one likes to see an America with smash and grab in our inner cities. As President of the United States, that will stop. It starts at the top with the respect for our justice system that a former president who's under indictment has undermined by attacking judges, by attacking prosecutors, by attacking the system and saying he's aggrieved. And so we have to have respect for our justice system and the rule of law.
They got to get Trump's dick out of these people's throats.
Let me take a break.
So they'll support someone other than Trump. So few claps because he shit on Trump.
President Donald Trump will be processed tomorrow. So next, the candidates will have an opportunity to talk about the coming trials of Donald
People are
Trump.
booing. More gold.
Choice. Please raise your hand if you would.
What's this question now?
Hold on. So just be clear, Governor Christie, you were kind of late to the game there, but you raised your hand?
No, I'm doing this. Look, I'm doing this.
And I know you didn't.
Whoa. No, Look, here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay? Now, whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States.
Damn, people are turning on Trump, at least here. To be fair, this
country.
Trump's not here, so no Trump supporters are here.
Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the truth.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Oh, there are the Trump supporters. Never mind.
I'd like to get in and respond. Let's just speak the truth, okay? President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated
Never mind.
by vengeance and grievance
Trump's
would
still
be a
the
lot more
crowd
credible
pleaser.
if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home...
He's dick riding his competition here.
Donald Trump, without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States.
He's literally
We're
Ben
skating on thin
Shapiro.
ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
30 seconds, Governor Sanders.
Trump, this guy is a fucking,
You sit here in an answer. You sit here in an answer. You sit here in an answer.
He's a dick rider, big time.
Hold on, Governor Christie. Well, so listen, the more time we spend doing this, the less time they can talk about issues you want to talk about. So let's just get through this section. Governor Christie.
You sit here talking about how you want to stand up for the rule of law.
Yes.
And law and order. And the fact is that it can't be selective. In your book, you had much different things to say about Donald Trump than you're saying here tonight.
That's not true.
Well, it is very true.
That is not
It's
true.
very true. I read it, and I know.
There's a difference between bad behavior and illegal behavior, Chris. And you as a prosecutor should know better.
Yeah, you know what? I know a lot better.
There's a difference between bad behavior.
I know a lot better than you do. You've never done it like you've never done anything to try to advance the interests of this government except to put yourself forward as a candidate tonight. And here's the thing. We've stood up for law and order. I did it as U.S. attorney. I did it as governor. And I am not going to bow to anyone when we have a president of the United States who disrespects the Constitution. He said, Martha, it's important to say that the president said, Donald Trump said, it's okay to suspend the Constitution. Now, the oath you take is to preserve, protect, and defend, not suspend. I will always stand up for our Constitution, regardless of the political pressure.
We have another question for you. We're going to get everyone in on
The
this
Constitution.
issue. I have another question. Hold on, you will.
I mean, the writer is unconstitutional as it
President
gets.
Trump's, on that day, the vice president moved forward with the certification of the election. So do you believe that Mike Pence did the right thing, Senator Scott? Do you believe he did the right thing?
Absolutely. He did the right thing. Number one. Number two, we should be asking ourselves a bigger question about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. When I'm president, the first thing I'll do is fire Merrick Garland. Second thing I'll do, fire Christopher Wray, because we need Lady Justice to wear a blindfold. Without that, no one has confidence in our justice system. 17% of Republicans have confidence.
Fire everybody who dares
justice. Here's why. We
to hold
keep
the president
seeing
accountable.
Not only the weaponization of the Department of Justice against political opponents, but also against parents who show up at school board meetings. They're called, under this DOJ, they're called domestic terrorists.
Firing Christopher Wray, but that's not down the FBI. Actually have the courage to get it right.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Do you think that's the case? That parents that show up at school board meetings are being called domestic terrorists by the DOJ for no reason? Do you think that's true? Or do you think maybe he's completely full of shit?
But let me finish my comments.
Yes.
Not only that, in addition to that, we see the SWAT team show up at pro-life activist homes with guns drawn because this DOJ uses their power, uses their authority, not just against political opponents, but against conservatives and conservative causes. It is time for a change in America, and I will bring that change to the greatest nation on God's green earth.
We have an important
But Governor
question still to
DeSantis, do you
answer.
believe that Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th?
So here's what we need to do. We need to end the weaponization of these federal agents.
Right, but I will do that. That's not the question.
I know, but here's the thing. This election is not about.
He's just not
January
answering their
6th
questions.
of
He's got his canned
2021.
responses.
It's about January 20th of 2025 when the next president is going to take office. I know what the Democrats would like to do. They want to talk about all these other issues, but we've got to focus on your future. We've got to focus on reversing the decline of our country. I learned in the military, I was assigned with U.S. Navy SEALs in Iraq, that you focus on the mission above all else. You can't get distracted. So
remember, Ron DeSantis' talking points have already leaked. No matter what questions he's asked, he has been told to find a way to bring it back around to specific strong points that his team thinks he has. So he's literally like not answering the questions and just he's answering a different question than what was asked because that's what's in his notes.
Republicans, we've got to look forward and we've got to make
That's what his handlers
that
told
we're
him to do.
bringing the message that can win in November 2024.
Vice President Pence, what do you think, Vice President?
Is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. I think the American people deserve to know whether everyone on this stage agrees that I kept my oath to the Constitution that day. There's no more important duty. So answer the question.
I've answered this before.
So yes.
Why are we? Mike did his duty. I got no beef with him. But here's the thing: is this what we're going to be focusing on going forward? The rehashing of this? I'll tell you, the Democrats would love that, and they will win if we let it get away.
God, this country is fucked. It really, really is.
Let me just say, Governor DeSantis, we spent an hour talking about policy. Former President Trump is beating you by 30, 40 points in many polls. So it is a factor in the GOP primary. Governor Hutchinson,
yes, he is.
You did not raise your hand.
I did not raise my hand because there's an important issue we as a party have to face. And over a year ago, I said that Donald Trump was morally disqualified from being president.
It's like crazy because Donald Trump alone is literally pulling in polling as well as all of them combined. And a little bit better than all of them combined. Like, this is like a bunch of fucking ants talking about how they're gonna take down a literal giant.
President again as a result of what happened on January 6th. More people are understanding the importance of that, including conservative legal scholars who says he may be disqualified under the 14th Amendment from being president again as a result of the insurrection. This is something that could disqualify him under our rules and under the Constitution. And so
all those boos. All those boos, dude.
obviously, I'm not going to support somebody who's been convicted of a serious felony or who is disqualified under our Constitution, and that's consistent with RNC rules, and I hope everybody would agree with me.
Martha, can I answer the question?
Can I get in on that?
Okay, I'd like to answer.
I've already been on it, Vice President Pence.
All right, I'd like to answer the question you asked and not give a pre-canned speech. Mike Pence stood for the Constitution, and he deserves not grudging credit. He deserves our thanks as Americans for putting his oath of office and the Constitution of the United States before personal, political, and unfair pressure. And the argument that we need to have in this party before we can move on to the issues that Ron talked about is we have to dispense with the person who said that we need to suspend the Constitution to put forward his political career. Mike Pence said no, and he deserves credit for it.
Okay. Governor Haley, we haven't heard from you on this. Do you agree? Do you agree that Vice President Pence did the right thing that day or not?
I do think that Vice President Pence did the right thing, and I do think that we need to give him credit for that. But what I will also tell you is, look, I mean, when it comes to whether President Trump should serve or not, I trust the American people. Let them vote. Let them decide. But what they will tell you is that it is time for a new generational conservative
Get Ramaswamy
leader.
to come on and play 2B. That'd be fun.
3/4 of Americans don't want a rematch between Trump and Biden. And we have to face the fact that Trump is the most disliked politician in America. We can't win a general election that way.
Governor Bergen?
Governor Bergen?
It's Governor Bergen, opportunity.
I like how you could hear the boos, but the cheering for Trump is the most disliked politician in America overpowered the
China is the number one threat to our
boos.
country, and every minute that these 8 candidates spend talking about the past.
The boos are loud, but the cheers for anti-Trump things, even among this GOP crowd, are louder. The Republicans are very good at, on their own, looking like they're big, like there's a lot of them, you know, and looking like they have a lot of influence and like they're in the right. But it's all just loud bark. There is no bite to it.
said about the future is time that is just you know who loves it? Biden loves it, but China loves it when we're talking about the past.
Okay, as promised, we were going to spend a few questions on it, let people say what they wanted to say, and now, indeed, we are moving on to the subject.
The U.S. has committed nearly 77.
Can I speak on this issue? I was
You
kind of
did.
involved.
You answered on this.
You did say
answer.
something.
Yeah.
We thought you were done, but you
No, I
please.
wasn't done.
Well, Mike, why don't you say this? Join me in making a commitment that on day one you would pardon Donald Trump. I'm the only candidate on the stage who had the courage to actually say it. That is how we move our nation forward.
I don't know
and
why
turn the
you
page
assume
forward.
that
That's
Donald
exactly
Trump
right.
will be convicted of these crimes.
You should be able to make a commitment. The same justice system that was this
There's
corrupt.
a difference between you and me.
Yeah, I'm not a professional politician. That's the difference. We can answer a question.
I've actually given pardons when I was governor of the state of Indiana. It usually follows a finding of guilt and contrition by the individual that's been convicted. So, look, if I'm president of the United States, we'll give fair consideration to any pardon request. But if I may...
No one can pardon Trump.
You know, it's not about looking back at January 2021. It's about January 20th, 2017. I put my left hand on Ronald Reagan's Bible. I raised my right hand. And I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And it ended with a prayer, so help me God. It was a promise that I made to the American people, but I also made it to my Heavenly Father. Every day for 4 years, I sought to keep that oath. And everyone on this stage needs to make it clear whether or not they'll do the same if they earn this job and the confidence of the American people. Now, look, I've made it clear. I had hoped that the issues surrounding the 2020 election and the controversies around January 6th had not come to this, had not come to criminal proceedings. I would rather they had been resolved by the American people and the American people alone. But no one's above the law. And President Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence that every American is entitled to, and we will make sure and extend that to him. But the American people deserve to know that the president
The American people have seen the evidence.
in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken. He asked me to put him
Innocent
over the
until proven
Constitution.
guilty doesn't apply
And,
in the
I chose
court
the
of public
Constitution,
opinion.
and I always will. I had no
Vice
right to
President Pence.
overturn the election, and Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Now we are moving on to other issues. The U.S. has committed nearly $77 billion in aid to the Ukraine war. The administration is now asking Congress for $24 billion more. Regardless of that, the specifics of that plan, is there anyone on stage who would not support the increase of more funding to Ukraine?
We would
not support it.
Europe needs to step up. I mean, I would have Europe step up and do their job.
Mr. Ramaswamy, but you're saying you would not too, Governor DeSantis?
I will have Europe pull their weight. Right now, they're not doing that.
would not support
and I think we need to do. And I think
That
our
is true.
support
Europe
should be
isn't
contingent
pulling their
on
weight
them
with
doing
pretty
it.
much
And I would
anything.
have support in China
Across
to
the
be
board.
able to be able to take China and do what we need to do with China.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you would not support an increase of funding to Ukraine?
I would not. And I think that this is disastrous, that we are protecting against an invasion
Europe
across
needs to do
somebody
more.
else's border when we should use
And-
those same
and
military
of everything.
resources to prevent across the
That
invasion
is
of our own
good.
southern border here in the United States of America. We are driving Russia further into China's
Yeah, the country of
hands.
Europe
The
needs to step up their
Russia-China
game,
alliance
seriously.
Is the single greatest threat we face. And I find it offensive that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv, to their Pope, Zelensky, without doing the same thing for people in Maui or the south side of Chicago or Kensington. I think that we have to put the interests of Americans first. Secure our own border instead of somebody else's. And the
March to
reality is,
Kyiv
this
to
is also
pray
how
to
we
their
project
Pope
strength by making
Zelensky.
America strong at home.
All right, we heard the names. Governor Christie first.
All right, look, I did go to Ukraine, and I went to Ukraine because I wanted to see for myself what Vladimir Putin's army was doing to the free Ukrainian people. And let me tell you, I want you all to look around this arena tonight and imagine that every one of these seats was filled. And if every one of them was filled, there would still be 2,500 more children outside to make over 20,000 who have been abducted, stolen, ripped from their mothers and fathers, and brought back to Russia to be programmed to fight their own families. They have gouged out people's eyes, cut
Okay, this is pretty based.
off their ears, and shot people in the back of
He's
the head.
not pro-Russia
men,
by
and
the
then
looks
gone
of
into
things.
those homes and raped the daughters and the wives who were left as widows and orphans.
What he's describing right now is exactly what the Russian military has been doing in large scale in Ukraine. Like, he's completely in the right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's part of that, like, political side of the right that isn't pro-Russia. This doesn't make him, like, a good person or, like, worth supporting. It's just, you know, it's unique these days to see a Republican that's not, like, very clearly bought and sold to Russia.
This is the Vladimir Putin. This is the Vladimir Putin who Donald Trump called brilliant and a genius. If we don't stand up against this type of autocratic killing in the world, we will be next.
Hang on.
You were mentioned.
Governor Haley, we'll come back.
Vice President Pence was mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, let me be clear. Anybody that thinks that we can't solve the problems here in the United States and be the leader of the free world has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth.
That is incorrect.
We can do both, Vivek. We've done both. We've been the leader of the free world and the arsenal of democracy for years. The Reagan Doctrine years ago made it clear. We said, if you're willing to fight the communists on your soil, we'll give you the means to fight them there so our troops don't have to fight them. Vivek, if we do the giveaway that you want to give to Putin to give him his land, it's not going to be too long for it. He rolls across a NATO border, and frankly, our men and women of our armed forces are going to have to go and fight him. I want to let the Ukrainians fight and drive Putin and the Russians back out into Russia.
So this is why they're so upset. It's because right now, Ukraine is neutral, which means that we cannot send them any boots in the ground, like American soldier support. No one can. However, if they join NATO and Russia has or if Russia does start marching troops into NATO territories, then there may be an expectation for the U.S. to actually contribute troops. And that's what he's talking about right now, for those that are curious.
Briefly address Pence, Vice President Pence. I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It
Ukraine.
fell back in 1990. The real threat, you talked about the communists, and the real communists that we have to address right now
have any idea what Vladimir Putin's aims are?
You already spoke. Now I actually have something to say.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish the old Soviet sphere
You've made
of
your point,
influence.
Vice President.
I'm sorry if I insulted him by calling him a communist. He is a dictator and a murderer, and the United States of America needs to stand against authoritarianism.
Mr. Ramaswamy, 30 seconds.
The real threat we face today is communist China, and we are driving Russia further into China's arms. The Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest threat we face. Nobody in either political party is talking about it, and I am the only
No one's talking about it. Also, Russia and China are starting to get at odds with each other. They're not getting along right now.
Will never be in NATO, and then somehow China will not think about taking Taiwan. We achieve peace through strength. America needs to stand for freedom.
Okay, here we go.
I think we need to reestablish some ground rules here,
When we
folks.
hear this bell, that means your time's done. So, Mr. Vice President, we appreciate your aggressiveness here. 30 seconds is 30 seconds. Mr. Ramaswamy, you were mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
So the reality is that today, Ukraine is not a priority for the United States of America. And I think that the same people who took us into the Iraq War, the same people who took us into the Vietnam War, you cannot end it. You cannot start another no-win war. And I do not want to get to the point where we're sending our military resources abroad when we could be better using them here at home to protect our own borders, protect the homeland.
All right.
That will be my top priority for
I think we gave you more than the 30 seconds in the rebut. So I do want to get to some other people because everybody, we respect everybody's time here. So, Governor Haley, you did not raise your hand, meaning that you would support more funding for the Ukraine war. You have said of Governor DeSantis that you didn't appreciate it when he initially called it a territorial
He says protect our own, but he wants the poor to starve. That goes without saying.
Needs to have moral
it's
clarity.
just
they need to know the difference
it's just a
between
virtue
right
signal.
and wrong. They need to know the difference between good and evil.
It means
when
nothing.
you look
Moral,
at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug. So when you want to talk about what has been given to Ukraine, less than 3.5% of our defense budget has been given to Ukraine. If you look at the percentages per GDP, 11 of the European countries have given more than the U.S. But what's really important is go back to when China and Russia held hands, shook hands before the Olympics, and named themselves unlimited partners. A win for Russia is a win for China. We have to know that. Ukraine is the first line of defense for us. And the problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan.
She is correct about that.
Funding Israel. You don't do that to friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your friends. Ukraine is a front line of defense. Putin has said, once Russia takes Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. That's a world war. We're trying to prevent war. Look at what Putin did today. He killed Prigozhin. When I was at the UN, the Russian ambassador suddenly died. This guy is a murderer, and you are choosing a murderer over a pro-American country.
That went hard. She actually did well there.
First of all, Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 30 seconds. Mr. DeSantis,
Nikki, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
No, I'm not on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon. And
Boeing came off of it, but you've been pushing this live. You've been pushing this live all week, Nikki.
You want to go and defund Israel? You want to
let me address that. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to address each of those right now. The false lies of a professional politician. There you have it.
God, they're like trying to battle on who has the worst takes. That's the funny thing about it. It's so bizarre to watch people battle over who has the worst takes.
Our relationship with Israel will never be stronger than by the end of my first term. But it's not a client relationship. It is a friendship. And you know what friends do? Friends help each other stand on their own 2 feet. So I will lead Abraham Accords 2.0. I will partner with Israel to make sure Iran never is nuclear armed. But you know what I love about Israel? And I've been there probably in the last 10 years more than most people on this stage. You know what I love about them? I love their border policies. I love their tough on crime policies. I love that they have a national identity and an iron dome to protect their homeland. And so, yes, I want to learn from the friends that we're supporting. And what Congress I want to learn from those and apply those.
Remember, guys, Israel's fascist. There's a reason fascists love Israel so much.
Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned in the territorial dispute. Not only...
No, it's not a territorial dispute
President
either.
of the United States, your first obligation is to defend our country and its people. And that means you're sending all this money, but you're not doing what we need to do to secure our own border. We have tens of thousands of people who are being killed because we're not handling both. And so I am going to declare it a national emergency. I'm not going to send troops to Ukraine, but I am going to send them to our southern border. When these drug pushers are bringing fentanyl across the border, that's going to be the last thing they do. We're going to use force, and we're going to leave them stone cold dead.
We're actually going to move on to China. We're going to talk about China.
Okay.
Governor Burgum. China has the biggest navy in the world, the biggest army in the world. Now they have warships off the coast of Alaska. They are threatening Taiwan. In coming years, China will have 1,500 nuclear warheads, it's believed. The U.S. just arrested 2 sailors accused of spying for China within our military. So the question is, how would you deter China as a president, Burgum?
Well, this is the #1 issue we're facing. And of course, we haven't been talking about it, and we act like that letting Russia win in the Ukraine is like a gimme as opposed to a gift to China. Russia has become China's gas station. But how would we do it? The Biden administration is a complete fail. China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day, more than any other country in the world. They do not even have all the food they need to feed everybody in that country. So they don't have energy security or food security. But the Biden administration sends Blinken, Yellen over there. They're over there. They don't even bring up energy because they're too busy trying to kill the U.S. energy here. And what we need to do is not meetings, not press releases, because something that would send a lot more than a press release is actually Harpoon missiles. We need anti-ship missiles on Taiwan. The way that you have a war never start, which is the goal, the way you have peace through strength, is that you actually have strength. You actually have deterrence. And what we have in what we've got going on in Ukraine is an example of when deterrence fail. What is an example there of Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the fact that he greenlighted Putin moving into Ukraine, and then now they see weakness, and when they see weakness, they make a move. And we have to be strong, and we have to be strong both in Ukraine, and we can solve the southern border. Absolutely, we can do that, because guess what? There's only 19,855 authorized people for the Border Patrol, but they're not all staff because the Biden administration doesn't enforce law enforcement. But Biden administration wanted to put 87,000 people in the IRS as opposed to giving the money in this fort we need to our own Border Patrol.
Okay. Senator Scott, on China, that same question.
And I speak about China.
Let's fire the 87,000 IRS agents and hire or double the number of Border Patrol agents. I just left Yuma, Arizona about 2 weeks ago. The most pressing need of the American people from a national security standpoint is our southern border. It has led to the death of 70,000 Americans because of fentanyl.
For the record, the whole fentanyl thing is like the most ridiculous moral panic of all time. And on top of that, as far as like criminal organizations going through the Mexican border to engage in crime here in America, the majority of it is happening through non-passing through the border via a way a wall would stop means. This idea that like we gotta secure the border, like we do from criminals, yes, like criminal organizations, but if we're being honest, the actual problem is on the other side of the border. There's like an insane amount of corruption within the Mexican government, particularly local government in Mexico, in areas where the like cartels have the most power, to the extent where it's like there are areas in Mexico where you'll be driving down the highway, you'll be driving down the road, you know, and a cop truck or a cop car will come up behind you and flash its lights and start, you know, doing the siren. And there is a non-zero chance that's cartel, and they're going to rob you and maybe do worse if you pull over. So that's actually a real worry if you get pulled over in certain areas in Mexico. Because they have access to actual police equipment, including their cars and everything. Like the amount of corruption is quite wild. They like the criminal organizations have an insane amount of resources and money. They aren't like they aren't just like tunneling under the wall. They're taking like private jets into America or through like submarines and shit. They've got means you can't even imagine.
No. Plus 6 million illegal crossings since President Biden has taken office, and 200 people on our national security watch list have been caught at our border. How many have not been caught at our southern border? If we just spend $10 billion, we could finish the wall. For $5 billion more, we could have the military-grade technology to surveil our southern border to stop the flow of fentanyl and save 70,000 Americans a year. That should be the priority of this government. And as the next president of the United States, I will make that border wall complete.
There are many more questions on China. I do want to ask about.
I want to say I couldn't agree more. It's not just the 70,000 from fentanyl. We've lost 200,000 people to overdoses since Biden took office. That's 300 people a day. We're taking mass casualties, and that's a statistic. But these are sons and daughters, nieces and nephews.
The only reason not even most Americans, but most people who were in favor of the wall were ever in favor of it was because Trump was so good at like selling the idea of America having a wall. Like. He basically did all but said, I'm telling you folks, we're gonna be just like Game of Thrones. We're gonna have a big wall. When the White Walkers come, only, let's just say we're not dealing with White Walkers, am I right, folks? yeah, we're not dealing, you get the joke, don't you, folks? Yes, you do. You're all very smart, you're very special. We're gonna be just like Game of Thrones. We're gonna have a big, great wall. It's gonna be awesome. Like, I don't know. He was good at selling it, you know?
That we're losing. We've got North Dakota troops down there flying night helicopter missions from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop these transnational criminal organizations.
My special little pug
on their side than we've got on our side.
Speaking of which, Governor Hutchinson. Speaking of which, images from earlier this month. Governor Hutchinson,
with Mexico,
Vice President Pence. Images from earlier this month. Vice President Pence, it really doesn't help. I'm asking a question. Earlier this month, images showed suspected cartel members crossing into Texas with rifles. Do you consider this an invasion? Would you authorize lethal force along that border?
My nose be dripping.
There would be lethal force used by the Border Patrol, law enforcement as needed to protect the border. Absolutely. When you look at the military has to be used for intelligence gathering purposes. This is not unusual. Whenever I was in the Bush administration, we went down there and met with President Vicente Fox of Mexico and asked his help in going after the cartels. And he looked at me and said, they're a problem to us as well. And so we joined together and we took down the Ariana Felix brothers leading the Tijuana cartel. And that made a difference. Ramon was shot and killed and Ben Amin was captured. Cooperation makes a difference. We cannot be successful going against the cartel unless we bring in Mexico as a partner. We have to use economic pressure to accomplish that. President Obrador has not been helpful, and we have to use economic pressure that this administration is not using. The rule of law has to matter on both sides of it.
Okay.
This is critical. I've done it. We know what needs to be done. The military has to be limited in its use. After 9/11, we had the global war on terror, and guess what? We protected the border at the same time. You can do both.
Okay, let's go to Governor DeSantis. So, as president, would you support sending U.S. Special Forces over the border into Mexico to take out fentanyl labs, to take out drug cartel operations? Would you support that kind of American military use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. Here's the thing. The cartels are killing tens of thousands of our fellow citizens. You want to talk about a country in decline? You have the cartels controlling.
How is a border fence going to stop them, dude?
We have to reestablish the rule of law, and we have to defend our people. The President of the United States has got to use all available powers as Commander-in-Chief to protect our country and to protect the people. So when they're coming across, yes, we're going to use lethal force. Yes, we reserve the right to operate. How many more tens of thousands are we going to let to die? I am sick. I've met angel moms throughout this country. I met a lady in Texas named Tracy, and her son took one Percocet that was laced with fentanyl, immediately died. That is happening all across this country because of the poison that they are bringing in.
I hope he tells more stories, like the abortion bedpan guy he knew.
You're darn right I would.
You know, Vice President Pence,
He immediately died.
Would you be better at this issue than Governor DeSantis?
He immediately
Governor
became
DeSantis on the campaign
homophobic.
trail refers to your administration as not finishing the wall.
Right. Look, we secured the southern border of the United States of America and reduced illegal immigration and asylum
Yeah, that's what it
abuse
does. You
by
die
90%.
immediately. It's instant.
When Joe Biden took over, he threw open the southern border of the United States, and the wave of humanity, the wave of fentanyl that's been eloquently described here is a wave of human tragedy across this country. But Martha, you began this
You experience
evening
instant
talking about
megadeath.
who is best prepared to be the next president of the United States. And I have to tell you with all humility, I was there when we negotiated through the government shutdown and got the funding available to build the wall. I was negotiating on Capitol Hill around the clock. I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy on behalf of the President of the United States. And Asa, you're so right. It's because we used economic pressure to bring the Mexicans to the table, and they allowed us to have people wait in Mexico while they applied for asylum and ended asylum abuse overnight. We got the Mexicans to deploy their National Guard to their southern border and to our southern border as never before. And I want to promise you, as President of the United States of America, I will engage Mexico the exact same way, and we will partner with the Mexican military, and we will hunt down and destroy the cartels that are claiming lives in the United States of America.
Thank you. Another
Every
issue
Trump
that is
supporter is
related
going to boo at
this
him
is that
because it's
almost
Pence.
7 million migrants have crossed this border, our southern border, during the Biden administration. So, Governor Christie, what would you do about the 7 million who are here? How would you handle them? What would you do?
Look, Martha, the first thing we need to do is to stop any more from coming. That's the first thing we need to do. Then the next thing we need to do with the folks that are here is to, again, as we've talked about all night tonight, we have to have law and order in this country. We have to enforce the law. And what that means is to make sure that people who come here illegally are not rewarded for being here illegally. We have so many wonderful people from around the world who are waiting in line, following the law to try to come here.
Illegal
and pursue the
immigration
American dream.
through and
those
through
people
is a
are
benefit
waiting
to America.
and waiting and waiting because we haven't
There's
dealt
no
with the problem of the
real
folks who are
debate
here.
over it.
We have to have them detained. We have to make sure that they are not rewarded for having broken the law. And one last thing on this fentanyl issue. With China, we can't take our eye off of that ball. Right. Yes, it's important.
God, they
that we
jump
secure the
around
border.
from
Very important,
buzzword
as
to
I just said.
buzzword.
But
It's
China
hard to keep
is
track.
sending these chemicals to these drug cartels for them to create the fentanyl that is killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens. The Chinese are engaging in an act of war against us, killing our citizens. We better make that priority one in our conversations with China and to try to straighten that relationship out. Because
God, they're the ones that want to go to war with China, dude.
Would you send those people back?
Of course. You'd have to.
We have a lot of issues that Americans care about. Next up, we're going to talk about the crisis in education, as millions of American children are not proficient in reading or math. After this.
Oh boy. God, this is mind-numbing. We're literally just looking at, like, the gathering of evil and, like, some of the most evil citizens of this country cheering it on.
To fix this crisis as we see it.
Absolutely. The decline in education is one of the major reasons why our country is in decline. We need education in this country, not indoctrination in this country. And in Florida, we stood up for what was right. First, we had schools open during COVID, and a lot of the problems that we've seen are because these lockdown states lock their kids out of school for a year, year and a half. That was wrong.
Ron DeSantis is banning books.
For that. I was pilloried by the media, but I stood for our kids. And as president, I'll stand for you and your kids as well. But we have to make sure that what our schools are doing is focusing on solid academics. In Florida, we eliminated critical race theory from our
You banned AP psychology. You banned AP psychology from being taught.
Schools. And we have elevated the importance of American.
He banned AP psychology from being taught in Florida public schools. Like, it's just they're just anti-education and anti-science. There's no, you can't live in that fantasy world.
American civics and teaching our kids about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. As president, I'm going to lead an effort to increase civic understanding and knowledge of our Constitution. We cannot be graduating students that don't have any foundation in what it means to be an American.
Mr. Ramaswamy, Mr. Ramaswamy, hold on, Senator Scott. You've said that the Department of Education, the FBI, the ATF, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the IRS, the Department of Commerce, many of these should not exist.
That's correct.
So to the education question, how would you deal with the crisis?
So look, we have a crisis of achievement. Let's shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education. Take that $80 billion, put it in the hands of parents across this country. This is the civil rights issue of our
education,
time. Allow any
defund
parent to choose where they send their kids to school. End the teachers' unions.
He just said, this is the civil rights movement of our time. Parents need right. Like, it's literally, they see it as a parental rights movement, or they don't see it. They're framing it as, and they're outright framing it as like, they need to defund education. Like, they're putting it all out. How many non-Americans are watching this right now? Hypers in chat, if you're not American, you're watching this, and you're just like, what the f? I know Minimum Volts isn't American. Like, these are the people that have had, like, a vile amount of control of our country for an insane amount of time. They are just, like, openly like, yes, education is the enemy. Yeah, we need to destroy that. That's if education is readily accessible to these children, then they won't vote for us. We've got to destroy that. We got to defund it. And they just openly say that, and they get cheers. I know, like, other countries' politics are also pretty fucked, but I feel like America's has got to be, like, pretty uniquely, like, a parody. But real, you know? I don't feel like any other country could have a Trump-tier president. I really don't. I think we are the, like, that level of arrogance and feeling like you're better than everyone else is uniquely American. Like, Trump is so funny because he's like every negative stereotype about Americans that, like, Europeans and non-Americans could have, like, turned into a person. He's an overweight, crass, stupid, like, lowbrow, like just like bigoted, like, his like favorite meal is like McDonald's, like burgers and fries, even though he's like a billionaire. Like, he's just such a cartoon character that I feel like Europeans probably saw Trump and were just like, what the fuck, when he won. Like, I wish I could go back and, like, see British people's reactions to finding out Trump won the election. Like, British people and, like, Australians, like, being like, hey, you hear Trump won the American election, then being like, what? That'd be funny as fuck. I remember those videos were pretty popular back in 2016. Like, the non-Americans finding out Trump won the election and being surprised as fuck. And being like, what is wrong with you? It's good shit.
At the local level to allow public schools to compete, and then revive our national identity where every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that, frankly, every immigrant, including my mother, had to pass in order to become a citizen of this country. And the fact of the matter is, look, there's part of education policy that also rests with the family. I didn't grow up in money, but you know the word privilege gets used a lot? Well, you know what? I did have the ultimate privilege of 2 parents in the house with a focus on educational achievement. And I want every kid to enjoy that. So part of the problem is we also have a federal government that pays single women more not to have a man in the house than to have a man in the house, contributing to an epidemic of fatherlessness. And I think that
the
goes hand in
incel,
glove with the education
the
crisis as
incel
well, because we have to
talking
remember,
points.
education starts with the family, and the nuclear family
He's trying
is the
to
greatest
appeal to
form of
the
governance known to
Zoomers.
mankind.
I will get you state-mandated girlfriends.
Governor Haley has said that biological boys playing in girls' sports is the women's issue of our time. You said that even though you signed a ban on this in North Dakota, that there hadn't been one instance where it was actually needed. Are you saying that you think
so here's
that
them
too much
talking
is
about
made of
banning
this issue?
trans people.
No, I'm saying in North Dakota, we made a priority of protecting women's sports, and we've done that in our state. But I would absolutely do that. But I do think when we start talking about education and we think that we're going to have a federal government one size fits all, we're just completely losing track of the fact that education differs by state. Some school districts are doing a fantastic job, some less so. But the idea that
education differs by state, that is fucking batshit, dude.
You know, when I was building a company from scratch,
that should give you some idea of why America's education system is so fucked.
In 132 countries with over 100,000 customers, we listened to those customers. We spent time with them. We talked to them. We did that. And as governor, well,
that is literally how they treat it. Your education differs by state.
I go. I shadow a student. I don't. The night before, I find out the student finds out. I'm going to go to every class with them. I don't sit and lecture school districts how to do it. I go and see the experience. And there's a lot of things that have to change. But what needs to change in education is it's innovation. We're doing it the same way we did it 50 years ago with innovation, not regulation. I would get rid of the Department of Education. I would give block grants to schools, but I'd give them on merit based on who's doing the most innovative. I just got done holding the 7th annual Governor's Conference on Innovation and Education. You should see what the people are doing when you cut loose
States'
the red
rights
tape,
to lie to your
off their
kids'
back.
face.
They care. Teachers in this country, the vast majority of them care about those kids. They're working in low-paying jobs, and they're fighting for those kids and their families.
Governor Haley, you said that this is the women's issue of our time.
First, I'll tell you, as a parent, the one thing you want is for your child to have a better life than you did. And we can talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of crazy woke things happening in schools, but we've got to get these kids reading. If a child can't read by 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we need to make sure we bring in reading remediation all over this country. We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children in the classroom. Parents need to be deciding which schools their kids go to because they know best. And let's put vocational class.
You know what's crazy? I remember, like, when the word woke was literally just, like, a thing the quartering and, like, no bullshit would say in YouTube videos. You guys remember that, right? Like, back when the word woke was literally, like a niche anti-SJW internet thing, right? You guys remember that, right? Parents do not know best. Yeah, of course. Guys, I've talked about this in the past. The conservative worldview is that children are property of their parents. Like, it goes God, then the father, then the wife, then the children, then the dog, then the cat, and the farm animals. That is the hierarchy of ownership within the conservative household. They believe that children belong to their parents in every sense of that phrase, in the same way that a slave belongs to their master. It's why they don't believe that there is any such thing as child abuse, for example, unless it's something that wokeness is doing to kids.
Classes back into the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build things again. When we do that and we allow that innovation, that's when it'll get back. And yes, I will always say I'm going to fight for girls all day long because strong girls become strong women become strong leaders, and biological boys don't belong in the locker rooms of any of our girls.
We're going to start the lightning round, and the first question is going to go to you, Vice President. So this is a lightning round of questions, 30-second answers, please. President Biden will be 82 years old on Inauguration Day. Nearly 70% of Americans say that he is too old to serve. Should presidents have to pass a mental and physical test in order to serve, Vice President Pence?
Well, it might be a good idea to have everybody in Washington, D.C. pass a mental.
How do we feel about that question, though? This is actually the first unironically interesting question. Obviously, Trump wouldn't pass this, but, do you think that a mental and physical test for people who want to be president, before they can be sworn in? How would that even work, though? Because if the people elect you, it's just you win. I don't know. I feel like we should just have a more robust system for impeachment. If we had a less partisan, weak to partisan system for impeaching, an awful, literally mentally ill, insane president who's incapable of leading the country properly, then we wouldn't need to do something like that. Also, they're only saying this because Biden is they think Biden has dementia or whatever. Yeah, most of them would fail, let's be honest. These are all old as people that are not all there, okay? I'm pretty sure Mike Pence, if he's sitting in a comfy chair and you try to have a conversation with him, he'll fall asleep. And you'll have to, reach over and, shake his leg a little bit, kick his foot, and be like, Mike, wake up. And he'd be like, I'm listening, I was just resting my eyes. I'm pretty sure that's most of these people on this stage right now.
30 seconds. No, the American people can make those judgments. But let me say, I'm running for president of the United States because we don't need a president who's too old, and we don't need a president who's too young. We need a president who's been there. We need a president who knows how Congress works, how the White House works, how states work. And on this education issue, Martha, I was fighting against No Child Left Behind when Republicans were doubling the Department of Education. I'll also shut down the Federal Department of Education. And when I was governor, we doubled the size of the largest school choice program in America. And we'll give school choice to every family in America when I'm in the White House.
This is a lightning round, Mr. Ramaswamy. I think you were mentioned there. You're 38. You're the youngest on the stage. You've said, and you just said, you want a civics test or public service for those under 25 to be able to vote. So the question is, do you want a mental acuity test for presidents?
Oh yeah, now this is them.
People of this country to tell the
so this is them trying to advocate for voter suppression. They're trying to advocate for there to have to be barriers and tests you have to go through before you can vote if you're under the age of 25. So this is them once again revealing how scared they are. They recognize that Gen Z does not vote Republican and or will not vote Republican upon hitting voting age, and that they are destined to lose. like, inevitably and indefinitely. So they are very, very terrified. So that's why they're trying to raise the voting age to 25. Under 25 to be able to vote. Yeah, no. They literally, they recognize they have to raise the voting age to 25 and up if they're going to keep winning elections going forward. They are unironically, yeah, they're trying to take it back to 1870s rules, yeah. Like, they are that desperate to maintain power politically. But they've fucked the American people time and time again, the right has. Young people know that the world is fucked because of these people's actions, and their propaganda isn't working as well on Gen Z as it has previous generations, and the right is terrified. They are literally horrified by this reality. Yeah, Zoomers are rising up, and they're scared.
Difference between somebody who's an automaton and somebody who's actually a thinking agent in the White House, which we don't have in there today. And I will tell you, I want to address Vice President Pence's comment. I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward. Look at the way I've run this campaign. Going to the south side of Chicago, to Kensington, in the middle of Philadelphia, where traditional Republican candidates don't go. We have an opportunity to build a multi-ethnic, working-class majority to deliver a landslide, and I think I'm the only candidate in this race, young or old, black or white, to bring all of those voters along to deliver a Reagan 1980 revolution. We're going to do it in 2024.
Same question.
In a presidential election until 20.
I will answer that. I will answer that. 30 second quick answer.
You guys have to get control of this debate.
Everybody's going to get
Listen, we're getting control of the debate. This is a lightning round, not rolling thunder. Governor Hutchinson, you have 30 seconds on the same question.
On education, first of all, look at Arkansas. We have to compete with China. I built computer science education. We led the nation in computer science education, going from 1,100 students to 23,000 students taking it. This is how you compete with China. As President of the United States, I will make sure we go from 51% of our schools offering computer science to every school in rural areas and urban areas offering computer science for the benefit of our kids, and we can compete with China in terms of technology.
Thank you, sir. This is going to go to this is coming to you. We're trying to do a quick round of different topics here. So, Senator Scott, faith is on decline in this country. You talked about it a little bit before tonight. So, is there a role?
Less religion's a problem to the GOP, by the way.
What would you do to change that?
Well, our nation was founded upon the Judeo-Christian values that has made this.
Like, they literally have a question at their GOP debate. How will you reduce the dropping rate of secularism? Or not secularism, of religiosity in the country. It's like, that is a problem that the GOP is talking about on the debate stage, is how to make more Americans live under Christianity and Christian rule. Really? That's their core? Okay.
The greatest nation on God's green earth. I'm a big believer in Ephesians 3:20 that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or imagine. Our responsibility should be to model the behavior we want others to follow. On education, the only way we change education in this nation is to break the backs of the teachers' unions. They are standing in the doorhouse of our kids, locking them into failing schools and locking them out of the greatest future they could have.
As President, Governor DeSantis, would you support some mandatory military service for all Americans?
I think it should be voluntary. I'm somebody that volunteered to serve, inspired by September 11th.
Jesus, of course that's a question.
To Iraq,
mandatory military service.
In places like Fallujah, Ramadi, and it's something that I think has taught me, you know, when you go in that type of environment, anything you have, your personal agenda, you check it at the door. You go there, and it's about focusing on the mission above all else. And guys come together, and they get it done. And that's how I would view being the President of the United States. It's not about me. It's not about all these other side issues. My sole focus will be on your future and reversing this country's decline.
Okay, now for something a little out of this world, and this is for you, Governor Christie. Do you believe that the recent spike in UFO encounters...
I get the UFO question?
Yeah, you do.
Come on, man.
Hey, chat. You know what I've been saying for literally a year now? You know how I've been saying flat Earth is coming? That they adopted anti-vax, and that was one of the most laughed at, like, bottom-of-the-barrel, low-hanging fruit internet joke beliefs for the longest time. There were, like, people were like, nah, most anti-vaxxers online are probably trolls, to be honest. I'm telling you. Flat Earth is next, okay? We're going to be having combos about flat Earth in Republican debate stages in the future. I swear to God. We are getting there. We are getting to flat Earth being part of the line you have to toe as a Republican politician. We are getting so close.
But, okay, we've been hearing a lot of testimony in Congress, and people are taking
Sell
it
it to me.
seriously. And we're hearing that, there are things going on that people aren't aware of. So,
The Zand
if
prophecy,
you were president,
exactly.
Governor Christie, would you level with the American people about what the government knows?
Did I log off? Yeah,
about
because
these
it's restarting.
possible-
It'll just take a minute.
And especially coming from a woman from New Jersey, I think it's horrible that just because I'm from New Jersey, you asked me about unidentified flying objects and Martians. We're different, but we're not that different. Look, of course, the job of the President of the United States is to level with the American people about everything. The job of the President of the United States is to stand for truth. The job of the President of the United States is to be a role model for our children and our grandchildren. And so whether it was UFOs or this problem of education, and Tim's right, by the way, and I started this in 2010 by going
This is
right
what
after
matters
the
to
New
them.
Jersey,
This is what matters to the
drove down
Republican
an all-time
voter.
low popularity rating 'cause
There's
they're
no
putting
stakes
themselves
for
before
them.
our kids. That
On
is
any of the
biggest threat
issues
to our
they care
country,
about.
not UFOs.
Okay. Well, coming up, we've
At
got
least he had
closing
a
arguments,
somewhat,
plus right after the
somewhat
debate,
reasonable
Kennedy is
response
live
saying
from
this
the
shit is
spin room right
ridiculous.
here in the Fiserv Forum with reaction from all the candidates.
So that, I believe that was the end of the debate. I'm pretty sure that was the end, right? Unless... Okay, I think we might have a little bit more.
This nation to a better day. These are 45
Okay.
seconds, and we begin with Governor Burgum.
All right, it's the last little bit.
I understand why America's hurting. Biden's inflation is choking us. I grew up in a small town. My dad died when I was a freshman in high school. My mom, widow of 3, went back to work. Every job I had growing up was one where I took a shower at the end of the day, not at the beginning of the day. Our cities are less safe because of the fentanyl pouring into this country. Our economy is being crushed by Biden's energy policies, which are raising the cost of every product you buy, not just the gasoline at the pump. One thing that I'll do as president, I'll secure the border. I'll get this economy sprinting, not crawling like it is right now. And I would say that other thing is for sure, when I'm on a horseback in the Badlands of North Dakota, it looks like the horizon is just limitless.
What?
When you can almost see beyond that horizon, you can see that this great country, our future is unlimited. But we've got to focus on innovation, not regulation. We've got to cut the red tape. We've got to drive ourselves forward. The way we win the Cold War with China is by growing our economy and through innovation. And as president, I will bring out the best of America. I will improve every American life.
Well, we hope you're back on your horse soon, Governor.
Governor Hutchinson?
Our nation is in trouble. And it's in trouble because of failed leadership.
Hank, our nation is in trouble, Hank.
The solution is not 4 more years of Donald Trump. The solution is new
The solution is not 4 more years of Donald Trump, Hank.
And to bring out the best of America. A president's #1 responsibility is to bring out the best of our people. That's what Ronald Reagan did. And he did it with optimism
Thank
and
you,
hope for our
Candidate
country,
Gribble.
with a consistent conservatism. That's exactly what I bring. As president, I'll bring out the best of America in terms of individual responsibility, building our economy, in terms of securing our border, enforcing the rule of law. I'll bring out the best of America in terms of our national character, our faith, and our hope for the future. Join in this fight, ACE2024.com.
Thank you. Senator Scott.
Thank you. I was a disillusioned young man growing up in a single-parent household, mired in poverty. I wondered if the American dream was real.
Dog, imagine I ran for president and I was on the debate stage, and then at the end of my outro I say, also subscribe to me on YouTube, youtube.com/Sanderhall, 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 thank you. And that's how I, like, finished my outro off in a presidential debate. And then I win in a landslide.
For a kid like me, I can stand before you today and say the dream is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. I have the good fortune of a mom who works 16-hour days, making sure we have food on our tables. She taught me that if you're able-bodied in America, you work. If you take out a loan, you pay it back. If you commit a violent crime, you go to jail.
Bootstraps.
And if God made you a man, you play sports against men. I'm Tim Scott. I'm asking you for your vote, and if you're in Iowa, I'm asking you to caucus for me. You can go to votetimscott.com for more information.
Yeah, they glorify the idea of working yourself to death, yes.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Martha. Look, everybody on this stage wants to be the next president of the United States. And the only way that's going to happen is if we beat Joe Biden. I'm the only one on this stage who's ever beaten a Democratic incumbent in an election. I did it in a deep blue state, being outspent 3-1. Beating a Democratic incumbent is not easy. The last Democratic incumbent president who was defeated was Jimmy Carter. And he was defeated by a conservative governor from a blue state who knew how to get results, who stood for the truth, who cared about accountability, and stood strong and hard against waste. Those are the very things that I did
feel like
in my
Chris
8 years as governor of
Christie's
New Jersey,
approval,
and it's exactly what I'll do
like
as
polling
President
rate
of the
might
United
go up
States.
after
Believe
this.
me, the Democrats want
I feel
some
like
other
Chris
nominee
Christie
who's
did
never
well.
beaten the Democratic incumbent. I'm the one who can win this race, and if you give me the chance, I will restore our country by winning it.
Thank you. Governor Haley.
Several weeks ago, I dropped my husband, Michael, a combat veteran from Afghanistan, off at 4 a.m. for another year-long deployment. I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they had never been, all in the name of protecting America. If they are willing to protect us from there, we should be willing to fight for America here. I will beat Joe Biden, and he knows that. I will strengthen our economy, and we'll bring this inflation down. We will put transparency in the classroom. We will secure our borders. We will have the backs of our law enforcement, and we will make sure we have a strong national security. And once again, we will make sure we have an America that is strong and proud. We have a country to save. Join us. Go to NikkiHaley.com, and let's get it done.
Yeah, that'd be me. It'd be xanderhall.com/live. I'd be shouting myself out.
Thank you, Brad and Martha, for this evening. It's an honor to be here. Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. The disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, their war on energy, runaway spending that launched the worst inflation in 40 years.
Yo, good news, guys. Apparently that restart for the server was Housemaster re-enabling X-Ray. Apparently X-Ray now works. Unless chat's memeing, but multiple people are saying it does, so apparently that's what that restart was. Nice.
Our southern border, an assault on our values and liberties, and the American people have had enough.
Oh, yeah, it does. Now, yeah, it definitely works now.
Different leadership.
Oh, yeah.
The Republican Party owes the American people a choice.
It's back.
Proven leadership at the national level that knows how to move a conservative agenda forward. We proved in the Trump
Netherite
years
mining's
we can
gonna
turn
be
this country
fun.
around faster than you can imagine. And I have faith we will again. Because I have faith in the American people. The good, decent, hardworking, faith-filled, idealistic people of this country. And I have faith that God is not done with America yet. And if we will renew our faith in one another and renew our faith in Him who has ever guided this nation since we arrived on these wilderness shores, I know the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come.
Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy.
I was born in 1985, and I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences.
He's just trying to come off as Zoomer. He's not really a Zoomer.
We are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776. And this is our moment to revive those common ideals. God is real. There are 2 genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest
God
known to man. Capitalism
this guy's a
lifts us up
fascist.
from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thanks for letting me introduce myself tonight. Thank you.
This is just a speech. He said it verbatim 100 times. Very unconvincing to me, if I'm being honest.
Governor?
This is our time for choosing. We will send Joe Biden back to his basement, and we will reverse the decline of this country.
He's saying the same
I'm a
line
blue-collar
again.
kid. I work minimum wage jobs to be able to make ends meet. I understand the importance of the American dream, and I know how that's slipped away from so many millions of Americans. We'll restore it. I'm a veteran who served in Iraq. I know what it means to put service above self. I'm also a dad and a husband to 6'5" and 3-year-old. I understand the importance of protecting parents.
You could hear the fact that he's in his head reading off the script. It's just there's no charm to the delivery like the rest of them had.
Rights.
He's
and
a
the well-being of
robot.
our children in Florida. We showed it could be done. I made promises and I delivered on all of those promises. 2024 is make or break. We're not getting a mulligan. No excuses. I will get the job done. And as your president, I will not let you down. God bless you all.
Well, we want to say thank you.
And Trump's still winning by a lot.
And thank you to Milwaukee.
Thank you, everybody. We will see you on the campaign trail from debates to primaries.
Cool. Nice and cool. Well, that was god-awful. Genuinely, that was horrific. I hope that for non-Americans, it was nice to be able to, like, watch as, like, the powers that be, the evil creatures that cause all this country's, like, biggest problems all come together to discuss the issues they care about. And I hope it really reveals to you why our country's so, like, oh, The Republican Party is unironically this insane. Oh. Oh. You know, like, I hope it makes things make more sense, you know? Are things making more sense to my European audience? Even with a couple of breaks, your review wasn't as long as your Keffel's Human Pet Guy debate review. How does that make you feel? There was a lot to say on that video, to be fair. There was a lot to say on that Human Pet Guy debate, okay? Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. The support. Anyway, that was quite awful. I hate that I had to watch that. I really, really do.